quite frankly, I think what we also would love is for this World Cup to kind of do what the dream team did for basketball in 92. If you look at the last, like, what is it, 10 MVPs or something in the NBA, have all been foreign born. That's a direct impact from the dream team. This World Cup being here and the excitement and energy and feeling will inspire that next generation of athlete to say, you know what? I want to be on that pitch and I want to turn the U.S. men's national team into the dominant football team in the world.
The World Cup final had to be in New York City. Yes, I know technically it's East Rutherford, New Jersey, but the New York City area nonetheless. There's no other U.S. city that better exemplifies the beautiful game and what it represents than the Big Apple. You know, soccer, down to its core, is a simple game enjoyed by billions around the globe, regardless of race, age, gender, religion, or socioeconomic status. While Washington, D.C. is the nation's capital and home to the U.S. government, New York City is our cultural capital and home to 8.5 million residents who mix music, fashion, culture, sports ideas, and more together. Putting on an event that appeals to the masses is no easy feat. That's why New York, New Jersey World Cup Host Committee called upon Alex Lasry to lead the charge as CEO, responsible for welcoming the world to New York and New Jersey, celebrating the global game while creating a lasting legacy of inclusion, innovation, and impact. I'm veteran sports journalist Michael LoRé. Welcome to Finance of Football.
Welcome back to Finance of Football. Joining us this week is Alex Lasry, CEO of the New York, New Jersey World Cup Host Committee. Hi, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
We waited a long time to have you on the show. You have an interesting background. You lived many lives before taking the job. You were in finance, you were in politics, team ownership. All these experiences surely prepared you to take this incredibly tough and at the same time rewarding position. What are the skill sets that you're bringing to your role to run the show, the biggest show in 2026 World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very blessed with having a lot of, I like to say, very fun jobs. Starting off, right out of college, getting to work in the Obama White House, didn't think it was going to get better than that. And then our family, purchased the Milwaukee Bucks and got to go out to Milwaukee and, help run the team for the last 11, 12 years. And, during that time, kind of really got to see the team go from, what I would say was like a, kind of like a startup to a, fully matured company. We built an arena, so dealing with a lot of public-private partnership aspects, built a district that kind of surrounded it. And then also got the opportunity to lead the bid to bring the Democratic Convention to Milwaukee. Which was, before COVID, would have been the largest event that Milwaukee, would have had. And then after we sold the team, went into the Biden administration to run travel and tourism for the U.S. government. So where the World Cup actually was part of my portfolio. So I think all of that kind of has led me to kind of being able to take on this immense responsibility. With that being said, I don't think anything can like truly prepare you for trying to put on a World Cup, especially one in the United States. Like, this is going to be the biggest event that the world has ever seen. I think the last World Cup final was viewed by the same amount of people as the last 13 Super Bowls combined. So this is a massive event, and having it here in New York, New Jersey, the capital of the world, is only going to make it that much bigger. This is the biggest public-private partnership you're going to find. But, I think through all of my experience, the thing that I've learned the most is making sure that you have the best team on your side, right? That I can't do anything without all the people who are working at the host committee who are really doing the work to put this together. And I've been very blessed and lucky to have an incredible team on my side to make sure that this is going to go great.
How many people work for you, Alex? What is your team size?
So we're at over 20 people now. We'll probably get to close to 30 full time by the end of this, and a number of part-time and event staff once we get into the true operations of the World Cup. And not to mention, all the public officials that are going to be working on this, right? Like when we're talking about transportation, that's New Jersey Transit, MTA, Port Authority, all of the security officials, NYPD, state police. This is a massive operation that is going to take an immense amount of coordination from city, state, and federal, and not to mention we're across 2 jurisdictions. So we're, New Jersey and New York. So there's a lot that and a lot of coordination that we have to do, and a lot of people that are needed to make sure that this goes off right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, with all of those different parties involved, and like you said, it's public, it's private, it's two states and jurisdictions, all that. How do you balance all of that, right? Like, I'm sure everyone wants to have a voice, everyone wants to have a say, and be involved in some capacity. So how do you kind of manage all of that, knowing that not only is this, like you said, the capital of the world, and I think the cultural capital of the United States, but also knowing that the final is coming here and it's going to have the most eyeballs and attention than any other event, like you said, than before.
Well, I think one of the reasons we were chosen to have the final is because of the capability that this region has. There's nothing that this region hasn't seen, right? And there's nothing that this region can't put on. And so I think when you're looking at, where you're going to place the biggest event and the biggest sports and entertainment event that's happened, it makes sense to have it right here, because there's just nothing that, our transportation, our security, and the region just hasn't dealt with before. I think what makes the World Cup so much different than a Taylor Swift concert or a Super Bowl is in what's going on at the stadium, right? Because the stadium, it's finite, right? Only so many people can fit inside, whether it's a Taylor Swift or a World Cup. It's all the things that are happening on all the other days. So, right. So having, the 39, having FIFA Fan Fest going on, at Liberty State Park, having our Queens fan zone at US Tennis Center, Rock Center Fan Village, and the millions of people who come to the region without the expectation of actually going to the stadium for a match. And I think that's something that is incredibly unique for a World Cup, is you're going to have a lot of people coming to New York, New Jersey, just looking to participate in the culture and the activities that are going on. It's why we want to make sure we have so many affordable and accessible events for people to attend outside of MetLife Stadium. But you look at a World Cup anywhere, you've got people going who aren't planning to go to a match, but just want to be able to say that they were there to be a part of it. And I think that's what makes the World Cup so unique, and what makes it so different than any other event.
You mentioned the FIFA Fan Fest. I have to ask you, first time in World Cup history, they're going to charge people to go inside the Fan Fest. How do you justify that decision to fans while promoting the game, and also trying to divulgate also the tournament's message of inclusion and accessibility?
Well, I think when you're looking at an event in the United States, and two, kind of where our Fan Fest is and what we're looking to put on, right? We're the only region that's hosting, I think, as many fan events that we're going to be having, right? So we're going to have a 5-borough strategy in New York City. There are going to be a number of other events going on throughout New Jersey, including the FIFA Fan Fest. And what we wanted to do was make sure that we putting on as many accessible and affordable events all throughout the region. I think when it comes to FIFA Fan Fest, we have a security and crowd management issue that we have to try to solve. And so what we want to do is make sure that we've got a sense of who's coming and how many people are coming per day and for the entire thing. And so we wanted to put a nominal fee to make sure that we were able to have a sense for security and crowd management purposes. And again, it's free for anyone under 12. So we are trying to make sure that, kind of that next generation of kids are able to come and enjoy, and make sure that it's not exorbitantly expensive for a family to be able to come and attend.
Yeah, listen, the cost for going to the Fan Fest is going to be a lot cheaper than trying to go to a match. So, if it's balancing, for a family of four, like you said, versus going to an actual match, Fan Fest is definitely a better option. How do you kind of weigh that? There's been backlash, there's been headlines about the FIFA's ticket pricing and the accessibility and all those things. And Asa said, like, this is the first time ever that a fan fest at a FIFA World Cup is going to have a fee to it. And you obviously explained why, but how do you kind of balance that, bringing in revenue for the reasons you talked about, and then also just the accessibility, knowing that, like, there are a lot of soccer fans who might say, you know what, I'd rather just stay at home, or I'd rather go to my local bar instead of going to the fan fest, because there is now this added cost on top of it. So how do you kind of balance the two, knowing that there's so many people who, are kind of soccer curious, especially around the World Cup?
Look, I think for us, number one, we want people who are going to be visiting New York, New Jersey to go to the local bars and restaurants, right? We want this to be a massive economic impact for the entire region and for everyone to get the authentic New York, New Jersey experience that I think people are expecting. Look, I think when it comes to ticket sales, if it comes to ticket prices, we have no say and don't set them, and it's why we want to make sure that we're providing as much accessible and affordable opportunities for anyone. And I think our fan fest and fan engagements all across the region are just that. They're accessible and affordable, and want to make sure that everyone is able to participate. Look, as these things get bigger, right? I think you're looking at any sporting event all throughout, the region, the world. It's becoming more and more expensive to go to these games, and I think that's something that that leagues and everyone are having to work through. But I think what we're seeing on ticket demand and on wanting to go to games, right? You're seeing the appetite still there, and you're not seeing anything really slow down. Everyone wants to still attend the World Cup. I think we saw 500 million requests for tickets for the World Cup. So again, like, I think you're seeing the market demand for this no matter what. I think what we want to make sure we're doing is giving people an authentic experience here in New York, New Jersey. And I think people are going to be coming here not just for the expectation of, hey, I want to go to a match, but I also want to be able to watch and support my team in New York, New Jersey in the only way that I can, that this region can provide. And so what we're doing is making sure that we're setting up watch parties, fan zones, fan fest, kind of all across the state of New York, the city of New York, and the state of New Jersey.
Last summer, Michael and I were in stadiums multiple times with the Club World Cup. East Rutherford, it's a special place. It gets really hot. Can you give us a little bit of a glimpse of what are some of the things that you're thinking so that this experience is overall more pleasant next summer for everyone involved?
We kind of look at the host committee as dealing with four pillars. So security, transportation, fan experience, and economic impact, and ensuring that people are well hydrated, are able to get proper shade, are able to kind of not have a summer day be oppressive for going to and from the games or even being at our fan fest or anything. Right, we want to make sure that everyone is hydrated and has proper shade and is able to kind of be part of the experience without the heat being too much. And so plenty amount of hydration stations that we're going to have some shade or areas where you can kind of cool down, especially if lines are a little long or if there are any delays or anything.
Those hydrating stations were my favorite last summer, by the way. The sprinkles, you walk around and they were scarce, but when you find one, you were having a blast at the moment. So thank you for raising the number of those around the stadium.
Look, we got to make sure that that people are at the stadium, because again, we're going to be open 3 hours before the game, and we want people there early to kind of take some of the ingress off of New Jersey Transit. Right, we want to be able to open this up and have people come and experience kind of the fan village as early as possible. And if we want people to do that, we've got to make sure that we're providing a comfortable and safe experience for everybody. And so we've got to make sure that especially in the summer, that people are able to be comfortable and still be able to drink as much as they want for these games.
Exactly. Hydration is key. 1 beer, 1 water. 1 beer, 1 water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. You got to drink responsibly. So for every beer, you got to make sure to have a water.
How about the current political state of the country? Do you have any concerns when people are going to visit our country and a lot of things are going, especially for foreigners that might look a little more dangerous than used to be? How do you reassure fans when they're visiting our country?
Yeah, look, I can only speak for New York, New Jersey, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that we're able to welcome the world to our shores. If you look at the next kind of 10 years, we've got the World Cup, we've got the LA 28 Olympics, we're going to have Women's World Cup. I think there's a rugby championship in there. We've got the Winter Olympics coming. So this is, a 10 years of sports that are about to come up, and we're the first ones. So we want to be able to show this region as the place.
You mentioned the 3 billion economic impact. So almost half of the entire economic impact for the tournament. I know my math isn't that good, but almost half is going to be in the New York, New Jersey region. And, a lot of cities and communities talk about legacy from these big events. So what is that kind of a legacy that you're hoping that this event leads, to, especially in this region, knowing that there's so many people, so many cultures, so many communities, rooting together for an amazing tournament here this summer?
I think for the legacy, I think we're looking at a couple of things. We want to use this as an opportunity as we're welcoming the world to our shores, as a chance to use it to show off, right? To, use this as a way to bring tourism for not just the games, but then repeat tourism after the games. And so that people who might be coming here from all over the world, maybe for the first time, say, you know what, this is where I want to, come back on my next spring break or something like that. We're going to have executives from all over the world and heads of state all coming here. So, coming here saying, wow, you know what, this is where I want to, kind of invest my, my next headquarters or bring, jobs, or, this is where I want to come to school, right? Or raise a family. I think this is what we want to be able to show this region as the place. And then quite frankly, I think what we also would love is for this World Cup to kind of do what the Dream Team did for basketball in '92, right? I think you kind of look at the influx of international players, and I think if you look at the last, like, what is it, 10 MVPs or something in the NBA, have all been foreign born. That's a direct impact from the Dream Team, right? People like Giannis, Luka, Dirk, right? All those guys watching the Dream Team and seeing Jordan, et cetera, kind of inspired that next generation of basketball players. I think the hope is that this World Cup being here and the excitement and energy and feeling will inspire that next generation of athlete to say, you know what? I want to be on that pitch, and I want to turn the U.S. men's national team into the dominant football team in the world. And that is something that a World Cup can do. I think, like, you look at '99, like, no joke. Like, you look at '99, what it did for the women's game, right? Like the images from that Women's World Cup, led to, millions of women growing up saying, I want to be on that. And it's kind of sustained a level of dominance for the women's national team, for probably like the last 30 years. The '94 World Cup leading to the MLS. I think this is then the next stage.
I heard David Beckham and Brian Moynihan, CEO of Bank of America, talk about that at Davos. And they were just mentioning how it's important to create opportunities to kids do not have the same, I would say, socioeconomic backgrounds, because still soccer has a kind of a barrier to entry in this country.
That's one of the things that, again, that we're working on. So we've got, we're working with U.S. Soccer Foundation on putting 26 pitches all throughout New York, New Jersey, with programming attached to them to make sure that we are making, football more available and more accessible to the community, right? We want it to be where you can just kind of go to a park and play pickup football, right? That it's no different than basketball, because, when you kind of think about it, right there, it shouldn't be expensive to play football here in this country, right? You just need 2 goals and a ball. And the same thing for basketball, right? You just need 2 baskets and a ball, and you should be able to just go play. One of the issues with U.S. born players is that, like, it's almost too coached, right? Like we don't have the same our players don't have kind of the same creativity as maybe, Latin American players, or, where you are just kind of playing pickup a lot and you get to try things and kind of be a little bit
Tricks.
freer. Yeah, like where it might be seemed as like I mean, like I remember growing up playing basketball in the park, and like you did stupid things that your coach would yell at you if you ever tried, but like in the park it was fun, and it just led to a more creative mind, and led to like kind of a freer way to play, which I think would benefit our players.
Play pickup soccer, kids. All you need is a ball. You don't even need to use a ball. You can use a crumpled up something. That's what kids do all around the world. And that's why everybody else is better at soccer on the men's side than we are. So moral of the story is play soccer. But that kind of leads to the final question, Alex, about, we talk legacy, but what's that impact that you want? Is it walking around in the streets and seeing kids playing soccer instead of basketball, or aspiring to, be the next, Messi, Mbappe, Pulisic, et cetera, et cetera? Like if you could look into your crystal ball or your magic ball, in 2027, 2028, how would you determine success for the 2026, FIFA World Cup?
I would define it in a couple ways. I think the first would be economic impact, right? So I think we'd want to realize all the economic impact that we're projecting, while also seeing in the next 3, 4, 5 years that there was residual impact from it. I think we would want to make sure that hey, when we're looking at that it's not going to take another 30 years to get a World Cup back to the United States and back to our region. I think, does this put us in the running for, a number of other massive events, right? Like this should be the premier place to be hosting that. And then I think finally it is starting to see kind of those best athletes starting to get into football. And I think you'd start to see that, not just from seeing more US players, kind of playing in the Premier League or in La Liga or in Serie A, but starting to see also, I think, the growth of the MLS in general too, right? Some of the best players, starting to expand the MLS and turning that into one of the premier football leagues in the world. So I think those are kind of like the hopes that this World Cup can lead to, and we've seen examples of that before, right? We saw it in '94, we saw it in '99. They've only gotten bigger, more intense as they've we've continued, sports have kind of continued to grow. I think we want to be able to capitalize on that and use this World Cup, which is going to be the biggest World Cup ever. How do we capitalize that on ensuring that not only we're bringing more people to see the U.S. and this region as a place they want to come, visit, spend time, spend their money, but also use this World Cup as a way to kind of inspire the next generation of football players, so that whether it's 2030 or 2034, the U.S. is in kind of that top echelon of competing for that World Cup trophy.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait for the World Cup. Both of us, Michael and I, are dying, as you know, to cover it as journalists and also as fans. But before we let you go, I hear in your voice so much enthusiasm about hosting this one. Are we going to see you involved in the 2031 Women's World Cup as well? Can you give us any clues around whether or not you're going to stay at the helm of this incredible organization?
I need to first make sure I survive this one. But, I want to make sure that, that this World Cup is successful. I want to make sure that a 2031 World Cup is successful, and any other events that this country gets is successful. So, if asked, and, if there's a way to help serve and make sure that that kind of this, next decade of sporting events are all successful, I want to be a part of it, because it's a big deal for this country to kind of be seen as the place to host, the premier sports and entertainment events. And that's, Men's World Cup, Women's World Cup, Olympics and Paralympics, Winter Olympics. I want to make sure that that this country is able to bid on and host as all the events possible, because it's a big deal, not just economically, but also just from a culture and status. right? We want to be able to show that if you want to have the biggest and best event, you want to do it right here in this country.
I think this is a great way to wrap this episode up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
We're introducing a news segment on this week's episode, a World Cup update, as we like to call it, a World Cup date. U.S. President Donald Trump didn't make many friends speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos last week, particularly as he doubled down on his desire to acquire Greenland. He followed up that with a post on Truth Social threatening a 10% import tariff on goods from countries opposing his Greenland deal, including Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland. The proposed tariff would begin on February 1st. Unsurprisingly, this hasn't sat well with many politicians and even those in the soccer industry, particularly ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup coming to the US, Canada, and Mexico. Officials including German football second vice president and St. Pauli president Oke Gutlich recently said, quote, "The time has come to seriously consider and discuss," end quote, a potential boycott of the World Cup. Quote, "What were the justifications for the boycotts of the Olympic Games in the 1980s? By my reckoning, the potential threat is greater now than it was then. We need to have this discussion." Finance of Football comes to you from the Frequency Machine Podcast Network. Hit us up on Instagram and YouTube at Finance of Football Pod for more football business and our enlightened opinions. Or search Finance of Football on LinkedIn and Facebook. This episode was produced by co-host Michael LoRé and Asli Pelit. It was edited by Ryan Hammond. Mixing and mastering by Julian Kwasniewski. Our theme music is by Hatamitsunami. Our show is executive produced by Ryan, alongside Stacy Book and Avi Glajansky for Frequency Machine. Find more about Finance of Football at frequencymachine.com. Follow us on YouTube at Finance of Football and listen anywhere you get podcasts. Please like and subscribe. Help us reach more people. We love you for it.